dive into the markets here. As usual, any stocks you want me to look at, feel free to ask away. Let me see what else. I also have the indicator on. Okay, we're good to go. Yeah, feel free to ask away, and we'll get started once I see the button pop up over here. Where is that button? If it doesn't pop up, then that's okay too. Not a big deal these days. Okay, all right. It's not popping up. Oh, there we go. It was just kind of slow. There we go. Let me just push that button, and we are good to go. Okay, good morning. All right. So, yeah, I was just commenting about this week. Edward says Bitcoin doesn't look that great. Do you see more potential downside? Let's look at that. Let's double click on that. I mean, one could say, it's hard, it's kind of subjective to say like it doesn't look great. Like it did perform quite a bit towards the tail end of this year, right? It had that annual breakout line, and it moved a lot higher. So to me, it's just kind of taking a break. But yes, we could take a look at Bitcoin, look at the crypto segment, and I also love the fact that if you notice right here on the screen, Finviz is actually, I noticed over the years, maybe last two or three, they've been really improving the platform. And so they've added a lot more crypto to look at. I mean, I don't just use Finviz, but obviously Finviz is my favorite for stocks and everything. So I like the improvement right here. We could look at crypto, we could look at Bitcoin real quick. Bernard says, is it possible this is the first time there wasn't really a strong Santa rally? No, I wouldn't say it's the first time. We could always do a statistical analysis of that with the sentiment trader. So we'll pull up the S&P 500 seasonality real quick. So seasonality S&P 500. I mean, it's pretty much playing. Let's look at this one second. Let's look at Bitcoin first, and let's get a feel, right? Let's get opinions from all around, from myself, the expensive indicator, et cetera, just to get a feel. So looking at Bitcoin right here, I have like I guess you could say VC friends who are asking about Bitcoin as well, like what my opinions are on it. I'm really just looking at the arrow right here where I pointed. So that's basically like the support line, right? We did move up quite a bit. Again, it always helps to get perspective to zoom out. If you ask me, do I like it in the short term? In the short term, it looks a little sluggish. So it wouldn't be like a momentum trade right now. It'd be like just kind of like sitting still. Now, we do know that the 70,000 mark was like this breakout, this annual breakout line. So this line is pretty important right here because basically Bitcoin spent like a whole year just kind of all of 2024 just kind of like in this range right here, right? And then it finally cleared that 70,000 and started moving up towards 90,000. So now we're just looking for like it, that was the leg up, and then now we're just sort of looking for the break. So I wouldn't say it looks bad from like a big picture perspective. I think the technicals and the fundamentals line up pretty well for Bitcoin. It's just that it needs to take a break right now. Now, what's helpful, Edward, is like what I like to analyze is like, okay, if Bitcoin's taking a break right now, how about the other, you could say crypto internals or other crypto alternatives out there? So if the other names are moving, if there's activity, then it's showing like a bullish market. But essentially, what I do every week with my report is I take a whole snapshot of the world. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I literally snapshot the whole world. Hey, what happened last week to this week? What does it look like this week? Every asset class. I mean, commodities are in there too, but I don't really look too deeply there. But you can. I kind of look at it in the aggregate. I take a snapshot of the world, and I kind of get a feel of like, all right, are people around the world feeling bullish or bearish? And that kind of gives me a pulse for the week. So right now things are just kind of pulling back. If I watch like the last 5 days performance across the world, I would say things are just kind of sluggish right now. I'm guessing maybe because of like holidays, a combination of holidays, year-end, tax selling, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, going into 2025, I feel pretty bullish. So that's sort of my take right there. So that's Bitcoin. We're going to double click more on this. I'm going to show you the indicator later, maybe in like 10 minutes. But let's go over to Bernard's question over here, which is like, is it possible that we didn't get a Santa rally? Well, let's take a look at that, right? Before we, apply any, subjective opinions on this. So this is what it looks like, right? This is the full year. I mean, this is I guess you could say a special session today because we've collectively have like the whole year performance right here, and this is what it looks like. So with not so many days left in the year, maybe like what are we? We like 2 days left in the year. Yep, 2 more days before the new year, right? This is basically the performance so far. It looks like the S&P 500 performed 25% this year. So is it possible that, we didn't have a Santa Claus rally this year? Well, I think, one of the mantras that I felt the Wall Street mantra that was really helpful that I've learned in the past which is basically if the Bulls have Thanksgiving, then the Bears have Christmas, and vice versa. Excuse me. And so this year we did have like a fantastic November, I would say. And then you saw that bear selling in November. So I think if I could better understand that mantra of Wall Street, right? Again, this is sort of like Wall Street culture where like I'm guessing like a lot of the OG investors, institutional investors in the past, they've been on Wall Street long enough to understand things that happen in the marketplace. So if I were to put I don't know, some sort of rationality or meaning behind like why is it that the Bulls come for Thanksgiving, then the Bears will come for Christmas and vice versa. I'm guessing like towards the end of the year, like there needs to be like profit taking or tax selling. And it either happens like in November or December. So that might be the I don't know the origins of the mantra, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's very helpful to kind of think about it because yeah, we didn't get like a crazy Santa Claus rally. I mean, it was a good rally, I would say, on the week of Christmas, as I was watching the markets. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's like like November rally. November was like really good. So this is what it looks like so far. If I were to interpret this chart for you guys, this is a 30-year back test of the S&P 500. And so the blue line shows all the years, right? Average of all years. And these are things that I want to internalize in my brain because it just reminds me of like, hey, what's the trading environment for the year going forward as well? So it basically down here in the green and the red that you see right here, it shows the typical tendencies. Again, it's just a baseline model. It doesn't necessarily say that this will happen spot on. It just shows that hey, like this is what the month performance tendencies that well, S&P 500 has a tendency to move towards. So yeah, typically December it's a positive month right here. But if we look overall, right, Santa Claus Rally, maybe like the last tail end right here. I mean it's been a good year. Like this is still maintaining trend, which is the red, which is what I'm talking about, and then the blue is just the average, right? So going into next year, January typically is a good month as well. Just something to anticipate, but not hold it to, you know, to heart, I guess you could say. No, it's just again, it's just a baseline model that's supposed to help guide you, right? But anyways, let's jump into the markets and let's see. Edward was asking about the Bitcoin stuff. So does it look sluggish? Well, what we could do is go to get you another opinion right here, and we pull up the $8,000 indicator. And what it will do in here is we'll put in like BitX, right? We'll put in like a Bitcoin ETF. This one's 2x leverage. So as you see right here, we got a sell signal, at least on the short side right here. So yes, I mean according to the rules base of this, this for you guys is a black box system, but for me it's like the expert systems that I've looked into. They're saying like, hey, this might be something to be cautious with, right? But sometimes you have to learn to override, right? So let's try another one. Let's put IBIT right here, just a few different ones. Should be saying the same things, right? So yeah, not looking too hot. We could pull in MicroStrategy because we know they have exposure to Bitcoin, see how this stock is performing. So we're also getting some, this is essentially a sell signal right here at this point, right? Just getting sluggish. That might be the case, but let's keep going. Let's do, what's the other one? Coinbase. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, that one took a little breather as well. So look, this one's sort of like setting up a sell signal right here. So yeah, it kind of sucks that we didn't continue. That was a prime setup, but it didn't go forward. That's okay. That's just the game of trading, right? It's like this is just how it is. We just have to stick around until like the next moment when you have like the stars align and then you kind of chase it. It happens over and over every year, but in order to see it, you kind of have to do the work. So I'm pretty diligent about putting in the hours, because I continue to believe it. That's how it is. I kind of didn't feel like teaching today, but I also kind of felt like teaching. It's kind of weird. So let's make it happen, right? Let's put in the hours because some days you don't want to go to the gym, but you know it's good for you. So that's sort of being today, right? I do and I don't. But I mostly do for some reason. So let's look around. Let's look at the stock market. If you guys have stocks, feel free to let me know. If not, I'm going to be diving into the usual stuff and some new stuff here as well. So I don't know if you guys know, but there are some fresh IPO stuff. You can easily screen these fresh IPOs, and I'll show you how real quick. So if you go to Finviz right here, you go to Screener, and you could go to the IPO date. And what I like to do sometimes would just put like, hey, in the last month right here. So in the last 30 days, did we get any big IPOs? I'll then arrange it by market cap over here. Just so I don't want to pay attention to the small penny stocks, just because we know institutions don't really play those. And then you can see that in the last 30 days, a company called Service Titan. They IPO'd over here, right? Very very strong company. Once upon a time, I used to compete with this company over here. But what they do is basically they're in their software, their application software in the service management industry. So yeah, pretty interesting company. Fresh shelf. I think it's worthwhile to do the analysis. Now, again, when you see a chart like this, there's not a lot to work with, right? Because this is like public market investing right here. This stock just went IPO, but we know for a fact if you go into the private markets, right, which is one of the tools I use right here, we go into the private markets and I analyze Service Titan right here, Service Titan. We can see that it's been trading in the private markets for quite some time, right? So we go to financials right here, and we scroll down a little bit, and you can see that it's been trading for like years actually. It actually started trading like maybe back in like December of 2012 right here, right when it had its seed round, and then eventually it went to a Series H round. So remember, VCs and stuff like that, they preempt the public markets by engaging in in startups early on. They go out there and they do the work, right? It's called private wheeling and dealing. So this thing's been trading for a while. Lots of funding right here, all the way to Series H. Total of 1.5 billion in funding. So to me, it's always interesting to see like, okay, when it finally hits the finish line, I guess you could say for some folks, and it goes IPO, right? What does that look like? So looking at the private markets real quick, just showing you guys around, we know that they got all the way to Series H funding, over $1 billion, and these were the VCs that participated. So the beauty here is that, I like to look at the participation. You got BBP, you got Iconic, you got Battery Ventures, you got Index Ventures, you got Sequoia Capital, you got Tiger in here, you got Tomo Bravo in here as well. So you got a lot of like high-end names in here, and now it's finally publicly traded in the hands of us public investors over here, right? So sort of like a treat. And so I think it's sort of it's worthwhile doing the analysis, and I did want to dive a little bit into like a double click on this today. Now, if you have other stocks you want me to analyze, feel free to chime in at any time. Let me know any stocks you want me to plug into the indicator, but I just want to do a little bit of a mixture of fundamental analysis, understand the business, because the way the way it worked for me, I feel, is like I just analyze business after businesses after businesses after businesses, and then in the end, you get like a really good understanding of like these entities exist because of our own human creation of the legal system, going to the Secretary of State, creating your own corporation, and then going out there and just growing the corporation by one, creating a bank account, then fundraising. Giving some of your equity away for some startup capital. Take that startup capital, go out there, wheel and deal, or build a product, build an MVP, and then go out there and just network with people like crazy until someone says yes to your product and keeps buying, and then you start printing revenue. You do that long enough, and well, that's basically how you start a company. The company gets big enough, you organize like a pyramid of human capital that responds to a certain hierarchy, and well, that's what's something that we us humans could build that lasts. I guess you could say, at least in this day and age. Like, once upon a time, we used to build like wonders, like the seven wonders of the world, like the pyramids and stuff like that. I mean, those I guess you could say last, but here it's like, we want to build things that, are socially investable, I guess you could say. So these are entities that we build and I want to dive into it. So the better you get at analyzing entities, the quicker you're able to evaluate them and see like, hey, is this a good choice or not? And then you just kind of move on to the next one. John says, I've been looking at a few nuclear companies, Oklo, CEG, BW, XT. Would be curious to hear my thoughts on that. Yeah, sure. Now, my question is, are those nuclear uranium mining companies or nuclear energy, like renewable energy or something like that? I gotta look into those, but there's different segments to it, right? But we could definitely look at that as well. So let's look at this one real quick because I think this one could be an outperformer. But let's look at the valuation, right? Because there's not much charts to look at right here. So let's go into Service Titan. We know that they were funded by